A warm welcome to this week's edition of Energy Frontiers, proudly supported by the African Energy Chamber. I am Justina Okechukwu. As always, we begin with the headline energy news from across the continent and around the world. The G7 group of countries have delayed a long-awaited review of its price cap on Russian crude oil, which was set in motion with a European Union embargo in December last year. The G7, made up of Canada, France, Germany, UK, Italy, Japan, and the United States, was due to revise the price cap in mid-March, but the European Commission said that there is no appetite among its member states for an imminent review. A new analysis by Rystad Energy shows that Africa's total announced electrolyzer pipeline capacity has reached 114 gigawatts, with 61% of these tied to countries in sub-Saharan Africa. Rystad further states that sub-Saharan Africa holds a highly strategic position for the development of a successful green hydrogen economy, as Europe sets sight on the region to establish sustainable investment facilitation agreements amid an ongoing energy crisis. Hitachi Energy has announced a partnership agreement with leading hydropower construction company Sino Hydro Corporation Limited and Namibia's bulk electricity supplier NamPower for an infrastructure expansion project that will contribute towards addressing Namibia's electricity supply challenges. In West Africa, Equatorial Guinea has signed a bilateral cooperation agreement with Cameroon that will see both countries develop and monetize oil and gas projects along their shared borders. Infinity Power has finalized the acquisition of Lekela Power, making Infinity the largest renewable energy company on the African continent. Lekela currently operates 1 gigawatt of wind power projects in South Africa, Egypt, and Senegal, and has a 1.8 gigawatt project pipeline which is in various stages of development. The fourth edition of the Angola Oil and Gas Conference and Exhibition is set to take place in September in Luanda. The forum brings together regional energy leaders, national and international oil company executives, and global financiers and players for 2 days of networking and engagement. Held under the umbrella of UK-based Energy Capital and Power, the Angolan event will see further industry advancing deal signings and project launches, enabling the country to drive long-term and meaningful industry growth. And that was a snapshot of your energy news headlines. When we return, the African Energy Chamber says coal will continue to dominate South Africa's energy system as the country scrambles for sustainable power supply. More on this in just a moment. Welcome back to the program. Leading energy advocacy organization based in South Africa, the African Energy Chamber, has predicted that coal usage in South Africa will decline to 65% by 2030 from the current 80%, while renewable energy sources like solar PV, solar thermal, onshore wind, hydro, and bioenergy will likely account for 25% of total power generated. Despite this, the new AEC report suggests that coal will continue to be a predominant source of energy for Africa's most advanced economy, while the country makes strategic and gradual move away from dirty energy sources. Verner Ayukegba is a senior vice president at the African Energy Chamber, so I sat down with him for a drill down on some of the key findings of their latest report and much more. Here's an excerpt of our conversation. So now let's drill down quickly. What are the key findings of your latest report on the state of South African energy?
The report shows that there is significant amount of loss in economic growth if at all South Africa continues to experience the kinds of blackouts that we are seeing. A second thing about the report is that we need significant amounts of public as well as private investment, both internal investment and also external investment into the energy space in South Africa to be able to meet the current demand, which is growing significantly, not just in South Africa, but in the region.
Right. Now, how can African countries balance the need for economic growth and development with concerns around climate change and environmental sustainability?
Well, I hear this question a lot. It's a very good question, but we have to be honest to ourselves in Africa and to say we need to offer people power first. We need to offer people energy first. We at the Chamber have a mandate to end energy poverty in Africa by 2030. That is not going to change if at all we don't invest significantly in power. And sometimes that might mean emissions. But we need to do it because we have a significantly growing youthful population. We have a significant amount of women and children without any kind of access to clean cooking fuels. That is 900 women at the moment, and children and others in the African continent. And so that should remain priority for us in Africa. We have less than 3% of the emissions, which are global emissions in that sense. So if you ask me, and if you ask many of our members of the chamber, the focus needs to be providing people with power, in as much as we do agree and believe that emissions need to reduce going forward. But I would politely say, we need to address those countries that have significant amounts of pollutions per head, and that is certainly not in Africa.
Now, let's talk briefly about what is on the agenda of engagements for the current year at the African Energy Chamber. Please take us through that.
Thank you. First of all, I need to say that we at the Chamber have a mandate to reduce energy poverty, or at best even end it by 2030. We have 600 million Africans without any kind of access to power. We have 900 million of them without access to clean cooking fuels, like I said earlier. That remains our priority. So what that means is that this year, we are going to be pushing significantly for more drilling on the African continent to be able to ensure that we can access much more natural gas. That will mean that we can push forward to building more stations and be able to use gas in industries. Our people need jobs. There is no way we can guarantee those jobs without access to reliable and affordable energy. So that is going to continue being a priority. This year as well, the Chamber has launched a number of initiatives to increase the amount of women in the sector, because we do believe that the more women we can have into the energy sector, the better it is for the sector in terms of its long-term viability. Finally, one of the really key things for us is actually encouraging local African companies to play a bigger role in the acquisition, not just of seismic, but then going into drilling and being able to be part of the value chain of the provision of energy. That might not be possible sometimes just when it's happening with one country. In that case, we are really pushing for countries to look at together approaching all of these infrastructure projects. There's no reason why South Africa should not be talking to Mozambique to build pipelines, to be able to access gas in Mozambique, to be able to access gas in Namibia. It doesn't have to be that it's just one country on their own. Countries in Africa need to work together to be able to share knowledge, resources, and to be able to share the burden in terms of the financial burden that you need to develop these projects, to make sure that these projects are commercially viable and can be sustainable long-term. We would be talking about this and a lot more during Africa Energy Week 16th to the 20th of October 2023 in Cape Town. I'm looking forward to seeing you there and a lot more of your viewers. Thank you very much.
Don't miss the full package of that insightful interview with Verner Ayukegba. It's available on our YouTube page at Frontier Africa Reports, and remember to subscribe. It's free. Meanwhile, grab a copy of the State of South African Energy Report from the African Energy Chamber's website. Coming next, the Energy Access Investment Forum was held in Abidjan, the Ivorian financial capital. We've got a bit of that for you.
Imagine a future where tomorrow's solutions build a world of opportunities for all, and where human potential is truly realized, where every child has an equal chance in life, no matter where they were born. Imagine the potential of a continent built on low-carbon oil and natural gas and abundant renewable energy. Imagine Mozambique, Angola, Nigeria, Uganda, Senegal, Egypt, Namibia, and Algeria being let free to develop their natural resources without pressure from wealthy countries to leave it in the ground. Imagine an Africa where we cut red tape bureaucracy and provide better fiscal terms so we can compete globally for energy investments. African Energy Week is the African Energy Chamber's annual event held at the Cape Town waterfront, uniting African energy leaders, global investors, and executives from across the public and private sector for 4 days of intense dialogue on the future of the African energy industry, showcasing the latest technologies and innovations to 5,000 plus registered delegates from over 100 countries and international professionals from across the global energy sector. Be part of the future of the energy industry and join the energy movement by becoming an official sponsor, exhibitor, delegate, or partner. African Energy Week.
Welcome back. I am Justina Okechukwu. The lovely city of Abidjan played host to the 3-day Energy Access Investment Forum 2023 organized by the Alliance for Rural Electrification. This year's high-profile event focused on the thorny issue of financing access to renewable energy, with many of the world's decision makers, energy access providers, and up to 350 private and public financial partners in attendance. We grabbed a bit of that conversations for you. Take a listen.
Prior to the onset of COVID-19, Africa had enjoyed 7 years of progressive increase in electricity access. Then comes the pandemic and its various degrees of disruptions due to economic lockdowns, and 30 million people lose electricity supply as they could no longer afford it. According to the 2022 Africa Energy Outlook by the IEA, in 2021, 4% fewer people had access to electricity compared to 2019 in Africa. And today, 600 million people, or 43% of the continent's population, lack access to electricity. Accordingly, IEA projects that to attain SDG 7, that is universal access to electricity by 2030, 90 million people per year will have to be connected. This means tripling the rate of access of recent years. So how can we achieve this? The one thing I know for a fact, it is not by extending the interconnected grids. The lead times for such projects are too long due to the long-term planning and construction periods that are required, not to mention the substantial funding that is required. DRE, as we all call it, solutions in my view, central to meeting universal energy access targets on the continent. Indeed, it is projected that DRE, comprising green mini-grids and solar home systems, will account for more than 50% of new connections by 2030. But we should not expect that it will be a walk in the park, not by any means. Establishing commercially viable DRE projects is quite difficult. They hardly generate sufficient revenue for debt service as well as operation and maintenance of the systems, while equity returns, if any, are unattractively low. Hence, DRE solutions presently depend on subsidies and high concession financing. The first condition to attract private investment is probably to create trust towards the overall ecosystem. Private investors are reluctant to invest with a clear and stable regulatory framework. A national integrated energy plan led by local authorities and jointly designed with main stakeholders is necessary to coordinate all transformations. National regulatory and implementation agencies should be fully empowered with operational autonomy from short-term pressure and accountability on targets to reach. Create conditions for resilient and flexible financing models is certainly one of the most important conditions. The introduction of a stable system of tariff and subsidies is needed, aiming to find a balance between cost recovery and customers' ability to pay. Finally, a permanent dialogue between stakeholders should happen in order to measure, evaluate results, then adapt the framework accordingly. Once conditions are in place to attract private investment, private sector will bring innovation, new products, technologies, new business models, new digital platforms. As an example, Internet of Things has opened unlimited opportunities to reduce cost, improve service continuity, and develop new digital services. Speed and flexibility. If designed accordingly, a network of rural entrepreneurs will be able to serve rural communities on a market-based model. Access to energy is not a static concept, but a dynamic process in which different technologies gradually replace previous ones, providing better services. Private sector in general, international and local companies, startups as well as local entrepreneurs are certainly the best enablers of this transformation.
Finally, on these energy frontiers, you have a few days left to enjoy your early bird pass at the African Energy Week 2023 conference scheduled for the 16th to 20th of October in Cape Town, South Africa, organized by the African Energy Chamber. Claim your discount by visiting www.aecweek.com for more information. And that's the wrap on the show for you, and we thank everyone for joining in. Remember to follow Energy Frontiers on Frontier Africa Reports website, subscribe to our YouTube, and follow us across all our social media handles as indicated on the screen. It's goodbye from me, Justina Okechukwu. I'll see you next time.